Good morning. This is the Affordable Housing Growth and Development Trust Fund Board meeting. It's Tuesday, October 21st, shortly after 9 a.m. And, please note that in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, the chair will inquire whether anyone is taping this meeting and to please make their presence known. Seeing none, we'll call the meeting to order. Um, Laura Schufelt,
Present.
Mark Milne,
Present.
Andy Clyburn,
Present.
Mark Ellis here. Okay. Public comment. Is there anybody here from the public who would wish to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on to topics for discussion. First topic, continued discussion on Zoning Board of Appeal permit 2025-013, condition number 11, affordable residences, Wilkins Lane properties. Jim, are you doing that one, or who is summarizing the continued discussion? And then obviously board will continue to discuss.
Yeah, so Madrell, so I can certainly speak to the condition and then maybe hand it off to Jillian, who can speak to what is presented before you. And I believe there are at least two representatives from the developer here who we can certainly answer any specific questions. So this is the property Hanover 2 off of Wilkins that was before the Zoning Board of Appeals per our local zoning ordinance. For a multifamily housing project. The ordinance required 13% affordability, and during the hearing process, there was a lot of feedback from the general public as well as the board members that an additional affordability would be preferable at this location. The applicant was amenable to discussing additional affordability at this multifamily housing project, and that is after discussions and negotiations with the Zoning Board of Appeals. Condition 11 is the end result. And if I could just read it quickly here. Condition 11, affordable residences. Although the project will comply with the required 13% affordability requirement, creating approximately 42 affordable residents. In addition, the applicant agrees to, no later than 10 days following the date upon which this decision becomes final and unappealable, notify the town of Barnstable Affordable Housing Growth and Development Trust Fund of the terms and conditions upon which the applicant is willing to enter into an agreement with the trust, whereby the trust would provide sufficient funding to allow the applicant to restrict a minimum of 10 additional dwelling units for residents with income levels at or below 100% area median income, provided, however, in the event the trust is unable to provide funding sufficient to restrict 10 units, the parties will agree to lesser number of units. To the extent of the trusts and the applicant, after diligent and good faith effort, are unable to enter into a trust agreement within 6 months of the date upon which this decision becomes final and unappealable, the applicant shall have no further obligation with respect to this condition. So before you today and recently received is the proposal by the developer to restrict additional affordable units and are seeking trust funds to do so. Jillian, did you want to go over what the proposal is before you? And I will stress this is the first proposal and certainly is open for discussion and negotiation with the applicant. Jillian?
Through the chair, what I will do is I'll just read from the email because you do have representatives from Hanover and New England Development here today. And I'll just read. Pursuant to condition 10, which is now 11 of the special permit, The applicant hereby notifies the trust of its willingness to enter into an agreement restricting the annual rent of up to 10 additional housing units for residents with income levels of 100% AMI, provided the trust makes a one-time upfront capital contribution as follows. For one-bedroom units, they are seeking $235,212 per unit for up to 6 units. For two-bedroom units, they are seeking $41,896 per unit for up to 3 units. And for a three-bedroom unit, they have requesting $645,171 for 1 unit. The buy-down values are based on net present value calculations comparing current market rents from Hanover Phase 1 to restrict 100% AMI rents over a 30-year term, after which the program would expire or be reevaluated in accordance with the trust agreement. A summary of the assumptions and detailed net present value calculations by unit type are included in the attached tables for the trust review. You folks, I think, have all had that in your packet. The trust's total contribution shall equal the aggregate of the units selected up at not to exceed 10 units in total. We are not including any values related to lease subsidies because we understand the trust prefers not to do lease subsidies. However, we are open to discussing lease subsidies as well. This offer is subject to the execution of a trust agreement satisfactory to both the applicant and the trust. The applicant requests that this notification be placed on the next available trust agenda, which is today. The applicant and its representatives look forward to working with the trust to reach a satisfactory trust agreement. And in that, the tables below, I think if you have access to what was emailed, this is as of September 25th. They are using a market rent of $3,318. They are also using an affordable rent of $2,303. They have other items which are market rent growth, which they're usually using an annual factor of 3% and affordable rent growth of 2.5%. They were starting their analysis as of February 2027. The market rent from their analysis start would be $3,460. The affordable rent, according to their analysis start, would be $2,385. They are looking at 360 months, that being the full term. A discount rate they're using annually is 5.5%, and a discount rate that they are using monthly is 0.45%. I can go on, but certainly open to questions and any other items that people want to raise up. And I did, noting that the representatives are here to answer and respond.
Okay, thank you, Jillian. Before we have board discussion, I would certainly, and I can see that you've included, I assume to them, our rules and regs and criteria that we utilize when we look at the potential subsidy of affordable units. I'd like to hear from the proponent here if we could. Paul, am I taking you turning on your camera as wanting to speak, sir?
Good morning, folks. Good morning, Mr. Ells. I think the response to Mike Ford's response that was supplied, that was just read, sort of summarizes the special permit condition. We were hopeful that a representative of Hanover could be on the call, as well as Mike Ford. Both had prior commitments and are not able to make it. We're not able to make this morning's meeting, but I think what the hope was is that we could get representatives of both Hanover as well as ourselves and Mike Ford to sit down with folks and just review the proposal, and discuss in a little bit more detail the mechanics of it and see what opportunities there might be to be able to, or the viability of funding these additional units. I don't know that there's a lot more detail that I can provide beyond that at this point. We did, as you just read, noted that the proposal is really it's a buy down of the units from the delta between the market rate versus what the 100% AMI incomes represent for those respective unit sizes. And we were under the impression that subsidizing leases was not preferred, but absolutely would have that discussion if that's something that that folks would consider. So I think really what we were hoping to do is just sit down in a workshop sort of a session and just talk through the opportunities for being able to identify funding to be able to take up to 10 units and get the economics to work for making those affordable.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Galvin, do you have anything to say prior to board discussion on this?
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to note is that the proposal is that these units would only be subsidized for 30 years. And I think that's a consideration the trust fund board ought to take a look at, because we typically get perpetual restrictions, particularly where looks like we may be paying for the cost of the units themselves.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Board members. Well, first of all, Jillian, so was there a formal application or was there just an email responding to the condition of the ZBA approval?
So there was not an application, but my understanding is that this is a first discussion, and I do think that additional meetings would be necessary. I guess I just wanted to point out that the net present value is not something that we would normally look at because we are not seeking to purchase these units. We are simply looking to buy down the affordability of them. And I also do want to mention that, typically, and actually I did attend 2 of the ZBA hearings. The conversation or the feedback from the public is the concern related to affordable. And I guess the point that I wish to make is that 80% of median income is the affordable, whereas 100% is what we at the trust consider attainable or community housing. So there was that note, and I guess also just that the maximum allowable rents, I included those in the packet, but for Barnstable, for a 3-bedroom unit, which is one of the units that, let me just tell them next door, excuse me. The other feature that was expressed in the open meeting with the ZBA and the public hearings was the need for a greater number of bedrooms. So the concern was 3-bedroom units, or maximum number of unit or bedrooms permissible or allowable. And I guess that I just read off from the maximum allowable rents for a 3-bedroom apartment at 80% AMI would be $2,776. And that's according to the Mass Housing Partnership posting for 2025. And I'll stop there because I think you probably have other questions that you want to raise and discuss.
Well, I do, just before conversation, just to help me as I open it up to board conversation. So we provided our rules and regs. We we also provided the criteria for us to evaluate both in AMI and in ceiling on dollars without additional criteria being met that we might consider higher dollar from the trust. We provided that all ahead of time before we got this outlined offer or this outlined discussion communication from the proponent. Is that correct?
If I could, the rules and the regulations do outline that, but we did not, I have had no in-depth discussions about what the trust is seeking, because obviously this is your first review of this. But certainly.
Okay. But we do have criteria that we use, and I would expect that the discussion would adhere to that until we chose, because of appropriate conditions, to entertain something other than that. But okay, so thank you. Now I'm clear. Hey, Attorney Galvin, did you review the ZBA hearing that created this condition?
I only looked at this particular condition, and I didn't. I mean, I generally skimmed the rest of it, but I paid only attention to that condition 11, and it does say they would look for units with at or below 100% AMI. So it didn't say 80% AMI. It did actually envision the possibility of 100% AMI. So I don't think they're wrong to propose that, but it may not be what the trust board wants to consider funding.
Well, that's kind of my question to you, in a broad sense, so that I can better understand what the board is being asked to consider. And it is that if we're looking, we've got a ceiling on how much, and we've got a criteria for AMI to determine affordability. And if neither of those are met with the initial discussion, is there merit to continuing the discussion? Secondly, I am trying to understand, and I would certainly defer to you, Attorney Galvin, but in the broader context of the creation of a condition, there's usually broad intent and then the specific intent of the condition.
Mhm.
And so did the broad intent of approving what was requested before ZBA just contemplate a discussion between the proponent and the trust? Or, I mean, the condition would lend itself to read that way, or is it more embedded in the action of the ZBA that they're looking for this to occur, and therefore it will kind of roll all the way back to what I was initially stating, which is we have criteria before we're going to distribute $1 here, and what should come in should contemplate that criteria.
Yeah, I guess I'd respond by saying it looks pretty clear to me that that condition requires the project to comply with the 13% affordability requirement, but it's probably less precise in how it gets there in the latter portion of the condition. And for us, affordability definitely means 80% AMI units, although we have funded some community housing units in the past. But I think the goal for us has always been to create affordable units, and that's 80% AMI. So I think that the condition requires them to have an affordability element. The way we work is we require affordable units, and that's what we try to fund because I think that's consistent with the mission of the trust. Uh, and I think that they've got a little bit more latitude by this condition, but I'm not sure our rules give us that same latitude. I think our goal is to try to create those 80% AMI units or better when we can. And just
Yeah,
kind of my initial
I guess
reaction was that we were, and I know Paul because I represent the Southfield Health Redevelopment Authority, and Paul's firm is the master developer at the South Weymouth Naval Air Station. So I just wanted you all to know that I do know Paul and I know New England Development and the people that work with Paul. So, but I think our goal here is to try to get those affordable units, and I think that's what the spirit of that condition was.
All right,
And
thank you. I'll
this,
stop. I'll hold any more questions until after I hear from my fellow board members. So discussion by the board at this point. Laura, you've had a hand up already, so.
So I think you know, the issue is that our funding criteria doesn't look at present value of the delta between the rents collected over 30 years, which is what New England Development is proposing that we fund that gap upfront. Obviously, that doesn't meet our criteria to be, to go above our funding limits according to our criteria. It has to be, below 80%. And so I think, we're starting, this far apart, this far apart. Um, you know, uh, in order to get additional 100% units, that would be, great. But I think we are, the delta is huge right now between what we can fund under our criteria and what the first ask is.
Any other statements? Andy?
I would just concur with Laura that I love the idea of trying to buy this down. It's exactly what we've been looking to do, but it seems that there's a vast difference between what we've typically funded per unit and what's being proposed here. I don't know, Jillian, do you have the facts on what our upper limit has been per unit? I mean, it seems to me that this current original ask is double or more than we've typically done.
It is substantially more because it's based on a net present value. What I think in the past, what we have looked at is basically it's a difference between a monthly rent is what in the past we have looked at. And so I would guess that we also didn't use a full 30-year term. So we look at sort of like an annual amount that we're supplementing for the rents, if you will.
I recall us debating years between 60,000, 100,000. There was, wringing of hands when we got to six figures per unit. And now we're talking about, a quarter million plus per unit. So, it's unfortunate. I love the thought of the buy down of a development like this. I just think there's a pretty big gap at this point.
I think, and if I may, I think that in fairness to the request to the proponent to come to the trust in an effort to add up to 10 more, I'll say affordable units. I'd like two things to occur, and then I'd like to hear from Paul and see whether, and I think what he initially said lends me to believe that the answer will be yes, but whether he's willing to have us give him or discuss this with him and then come back together again for further discussion. But number one, Attorney Galvin, I would like your opinion on the broad approval of the ZBA and then this condition within that broad approval.
Yep.
Because though I know that a condition it almost seems like a throwaway to me. They ask, we say, no, it's done. I want to know that that's what this is legally. If it isn't, then I need to be advised as to how we should proceed.
Okay.
Secondly, I think what I would like to do is quantify what we could offer here. Now, that doesn't mean that there wouldn't be a subsequent discussion about what might be done beyond that. But I think that in fairness to Paul, I mean, they did what the condition said. Thank you. So here we are. And I would like to at least indicate to them what the trust could do. And then from there, have a subsequent conversation. Board members, any discussion on that? Laura, Mark?
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I thank you, Mark, Laura. I think I believe our funding per unit is capped for affordable housing at 150,000 per unit. So I mean that to me is a starting point from our perspective, and if it could be directed more towards the 2 and 3 bedroom units and less to the 1 bedroom units, because I think that's what I'm hearing the community wants more of, because we've really been funding these 1 bedroom units for the most part, and so we could find a way to work within those guidelines. I think that's a good way to proceed.
Okay, thank you. Laura?
Yeah, I was just gonna agree with the 2 points you made, Mark, but also I am forgetting how much our per project limit is. I think we have one.
I think it's 2 million.
Yeah, I think
2
it's
billion.
2. That's what I thought. Okay.
And I should add that if you add up the amounts as proposed, they exceed 3.5 million.
So there's value in what the ZBA was trying to do. And it's appreciated that the proponent has come in under that condition and done what they've done. But obviously the gap that exists is one that needs further discussion before this, in my opinion, would be a viable ask before the trust. We want to consider it. So, Paul, are you willing to continue this conversation?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So, Jim, going to pull you into this. Between you and Attorney Galvin and Jillian, I mean, is that where a working discussion might organize something for us to consider within some of the ceilings we already have?
Yes, absolutely. I think this was actually a great conversation because it provided us a lot of valuable insight as to what the Housing Trust is prioritizing. So I'm certainly happy to reach out to Paul and to Attorney Ford and set up a subsequent discussion to talk this through further.
Laura?
Yeah, I'm wondering if a trust member should be involved as well.
Are you offering, Laura?
Well, yes.
Who do you recommend, Laura? Who do you recommend?
I would volunteer.
Then trust members, any concerns about that?
No, sir. Sounds good.
Okay, Laura, thank you. Accepted. Yes, Laura.
In addition, if I could just kind of take a little tangent, that maybe there needs to be either a joint committee or at least educational meeting with the ZBA so that they're up to speed, so that we don't get kind of locked into a condition that like this. I think if they had more information about what we do fund and our criteria, even if it's just through exchange of documents, it would be helpful.
That's good advice. I think, Jim, if you can think about how to best communicate to any board, commission, committee that might contemplate something like this in the future, I think that would be extremely valuable. Because beyond us, I don't know that many people truly understand what this trust does. So thank you, Laura. And then, hey, Paul, if you listening to the conversation, certainly, not you don't have to do it right now, but going into the discussion that Jim and Laura and Bob and Jillian are going to have, if you kind of can see a path to, a real scenario, go ahead, feel comfortable to share it. You and Attorney Ford. I mean, we all want to. I believe we all want to, achieve the intent of that condition. So, yeah, I mean, if you see a pathway, share it. Okay. Thank you.
We will. I agree with Jim Cupfer. The information's been really valuable. We'll be able to review it with both Hanover and Mike Ford, and be prepared to talk about some different ideas that we have when we sit down. I think it's been a big help.
All right, great. Well, we really appreciate you being here. And any further discussion on this item? Okay, so Jillian, when the parties say that they're ready to come back for further discussion, please put them on a future agenda.
Will do. Thank you.
All right.
And just so I'm clear, in the interim, Jim, you'll work to try to set up a meeting of this group.
That is correct. Yes.
Perfect. Okay, great.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for letting us join the meeting.
All right, Paul. Appreciate you being here. Okay, moving on to topic of discussion number 2. Amendment to the 2020 Declaration of Trust. Jillian, are you doing that?
Well, I think I'll lead,
Defer to
but I think Bob probably has some,
Okay, great.
some
Great.
update
Yes, sir.
information. So we've had conversations going back and forth, including Karen Nover and Tom La Rosa from the town's legal staff, just to go back and forth and make sure that the amendment that we had discussed, Bob has obviously drafted all of that to be inclusive. And then I think we had a further conversation regarding frequency of reporting. So that was the last change that was being proposed. In the past, back when Ruth was here, we had a standard of reporting to the Community Preservation Committee quarterly. And I think that, obviously we had discussed amongst the board members that the frequency perhaps was not warranted. There wasn't a lot of activity when I first came in 2022. We reduced to semi-annual, and it was just noted in our last report that I had believed that the quarterly reporting was a requirement. It is not stated in the declaration. The only requirement in the Declaration of Trust is the annual reporting to the Community Preservation Committee. It's the CP3 requirement. But again, perhaps there was a standard agreed to. I don't know what past history, if there was that we promised that we would do quarterly reports or anything. So we had informed the trust, the Community Preservation Committee in our report last year that we were reducing to semi-annual. That would be on the end of the calendar year and the end of the fiscal year. And that's how we have proceeded since I have been here. And I can say that also that reporting, because the semi-annual, we've been a little tardy in our reporting because it is something that, you guys all have to meet and agree on those reports. And it's hard sometimes to get those completed and submitted to them in advance of their annual meeting, which is usually at the end of the fiscal year. And I'll stop there because I know Bob probably had something he wanted to say.
Yeah, so the purpose of the amendment originally started out with just making sure that we had the ability to fund these other types of projects. And then at some point there, as Jillian said, that there was a discussion about whether we had an obligation to quarterly report. And in my discussions with Karen Nober and Tom LaRosa um, from the law department, the suggestion was made to further amend the trust if we're not going to be doing quarterly reporting to make sure that our trust is consistent with our actual practice. So as I sat down to do that, I reviewed the provisions of the trust document, and I determined that actually the trust document only requires you to report once per year at the end of the fiscal year. And I drafted, in the event that the trust board wants to do it, a amendment that obligates you to report semi-annually if that's what you want to do. And I provided that to Jillian yesterday to send along to you all. The only requirement it is there is that you report at the end of each fiscal year. The proposal was that you report at the end of each calendar year, which would be December 31st, and then the end of each fiscal year, which would be June 30th. So I drafted that amendment in the event that the trust board wants to include that as a part of its amendment, and I provided a redlined and clean version, and I'd be happy to display my screen and show it if that's what you want. But if you just want to do the original trust amendment to deal with the Commonwealth Builder, we'll leave it at that only. So completely up to the trust board.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Andy.
I was just going to suggest, I think annual reporting is sufficient.
I concur.
I agree.
Agree as well.
I mean, if a
Typical for trusts to do
CPC
that.
if someone asks, we can administratively report anytime they would like in a smaller increment, but annual is I think adequate.
Okay. Then that trust amendment that I had previously provided, I can insert the dates and provide that, and I think it meets with everyone's approval, including legal at Barnstable.
Okay.
And then it can be signed, and we'll record that.
Any further discussion on that amendment then?
Do we need to vote
We
that?
need to vote.
Do we need a vote for that?
I think you'd already, I
I
think the
thought we
trust board
did.
already approved it, and we were
I
just
thought-
giving it we were making the change, and then it was going to be authorized for you, Mr. Els, to sign.
Yes. Is that correct, Jillian? Was there a vote?
You're muted.
Yes, sorry. Yes, there was a previous vote that where you agreed to the amendment related to the Commonwealth Builders to include those projects. We got kind of sidetracked with this frequency of reporting, so we made another slight amendment. But if you're including an annual report requirement, which is already in the declaration, I believe you are completely within your ability you were already authorized, Chairman Els, to sign a previous amendment.
And just so I'm clear, so Attorney Galvin,
Mhm.
because we didn't ask for the shorter reporting, it's not as though the board asked you to do two things here. So we don't need a vote to pull one of them out. We've
No.
already voted favorably toward proceeding with the mass housing, and so therefore that's what you will proceed with.
Yeah, that is actually all drafted, but
Yep.
when this
Okay.
reporting requirement came up, I further modified it in case you all decided to modify it again. So it is all done, and I will make sure that it gets presented over to you as immediately so we can get it recorded.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
All right. End of year report to community preservation. Yes, Jillian.
Excuse me, I just wanted to go back to I'm sorry, on the declaration, your previous amendment, each member of the trust had signed that. Procedurally, I don't know if you wish to have that continue in that method or whether it's just okay to have that signed by the
No,
chair.
as to form, I want Attorney Galvin to weigh in, and if we all need to sign it, we will, or if it doesn't, then we'll correct it to have the chair signature. Whatever, as to form is correct, we will
Yeah,
do.
and actually it does I'm looking at the document that was prepared. It does require the 4 signatures. So
Great.
Thank you for my clarification on that. I thank you very much.
Jillian, you have that. You'll have it on your email in a moment.
Okay, very good.
Yep.
Let's see. I think you are chair. Were you passing me back to the end of the year report to the CPC?
I am. Let's go. So has everybody had a chance to look at the revised draft? No?
Are you talking about the trust amendment?
No, I'm talking about, no, the trust amendment I believe you're proceeding with.
Yep.
Okay. No, I'm on to B under section 2, which is trust end of the year report to the Community Preservation Committee.
Wow.
Has the board had time to review that document? If not, then it'll go back to what Jillian said, and we'll take more time to review it by next meeting, and we will provide her with any amendments or modifications so that we can move to a final version. Is that acceptable by the board? Yes. Yes, Jillian, please.
I just wanted to add that we have had a pretty extensive review of my draft. Bob Galvin, Karen Nober, and Tom LaRosa did include some very good clarification updates, and I think you'll find the wording is much improved and edited well. So I do feel that just my own personal comment, it was a great improvement over what I had drafted, much more clear.
Well, thank you, and we look forward to reading it. We'll give you our feedback. All right, moving on to C, project updates. Jillian, are you giving these 4?
Yeah, I just wanted to list these. I put them on the agenda just to make sure that we're all, maintaining and staying on top of all the different pots that are simmering here. So the 268 Stevens Street, the Hack Commonwealth Builders, we have worked extensively on those, or I should say Bob has worked extensively on those documents with both Karen Nober and with David Quinn and the Housing Assistance Corporation's attorneys. I believe they're in their final form, and they were included. Bob also included the red line version so that people could see that. So the 4 documents that we are, I believe, in close to final because, and I should say they are looking to close. I think on the agenda I said October 15th, and clearly that has been extended. But they are hoping, they're meeting with Mass Housing and hoping to close before the end of the month. So a little bit of an urgency of trying to get documents finalized. And again, I'll stop there to see if Bob wanted to point out any changes in those documents, but I think they were all included in the most recent email that I sent you regarding the meeting.
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to add is that there may be a request to slightly edit the mortgage to make sure that it's clear that when they sell these units, if they sell them one at a time, that we will give a partial release. Remember, these are for sale units. They're not likely to sell them in as a bulk. They're likely to sell them in individual sales. I assured them that our intention would be to issue a partial release for each sale. It's not a complex document. I've already created a template for a partial release. I explained to David Quinn just yesterday on the phone that I would give him a side letter indicating that it would be our intention to issue a partial release so we could sell each of the units. So,
Laura?
Yeah. Is this the appropriate time to make comments on the documents? I'm not sure if that was the agenda item that we're under.
Well, it says finalize the legal document. So if you have comments heading into finalized documents, please make them.
Okay. Let's see. I got to get the first document up. In the grant agreement, under number 3, process for disbursement of funds. Our standard practice is either to fund when occupancy permits are granted or pro rata across the construction. It was originally put in as pro rata and it was changed to all funds distributed upon construction closing. What is our collateral for that since we can't fund land acquisition? So we have $1 million out there for 31 units. That's not typical.
So our intention is actually to follow the disbursement schedule. It's not to disperse all funds, but to follow the disbursement schedule with the bank.
That's not what it says in the grant agreement.
Do you expend it solely on the grant and physical and site improvement work? All funds dispersed on construction closing. Okay, so we had Jillian, and you can probably jump in here too. When we were discussing this yesterday with David Quinn, we were explaining to him that we would be dispersing as dependent on the construction schedule that we were going to get from the lender. It's not all funds dispersed on the construction closing. You were absolutely right, Laura.
Okay. So that needs to just be
Dispersed on construction closing and in accordance with the schedule.
yeah, which is what it says that was deleted on the red line.
Yeah, I'll make that change and send that to David Quinn because that's exactly what we talked about yesterday.
Okay. Let's see. I had a question about there's a deletion on the accessible units. Kind of everything was eliminated. It's number 9 on the grant agreement.
Hold on 1 second. I would just making that note on the other one.
Okay.
Okay, I'm on 9 now.
Okay.
Yep, go ahead.
It just was all deleted.
So that's okay. So
And I
For a
didn't
period
know.
of 10 years from the day of the closing, I only deleted the only thing that was deleted here. I mean, are you looking comparing like an original grant agreement to this one?
No, I'm looking at the red line that was sent.
All they did was deleted from Eastern Bank. I'm only seeing a couple of blanks that were deleted in my red line version. So
I have on page 6, the top of page 6, affordable unit accessible to persons with disabilities. The whole thing was deleted.
we're not looking at the grant agreement now. Did you shift to another document?
No, I'm still on the grant agreement.
Okay, I have the 10.3 comments clean. No, I'm not. I have to open the next document then. Just give me a second.
Okay.
So, mine is different. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Well, Laura, just a quick question for you.
Yeah.
Do we want to take this under advisement and give ample time for you and Bob and Jillian to discuss and then share that with the board and then for us to come in with a final document based on the fact that you are looking for at least clarification, if not modification?
Well,
Or do you want to do it now? What do you?
I
either
think
way.
they're anticipating closing tomorrow. Okay. And I would be happy to work any final kinks out with Laura on any of these things that are worded um, in a manner that can be improved. So I'd be happy to call Laura as soon as we're done with the meeting and make sure that there's nothing else here. But I see what you're saying now. My draft does not have that in there. I see that.
Okay. I was just wondering why it was taken out. And there's one more thing in the grant agreement on the reporting, monitoring and reporting. It took out an annual reporting to the trust will be provided reports required by Mass Housing on their schedule. I think typically for home ownership units, you get an annual affidavit. So I would keep annual in.
Okay.
And Bob, were these modifications made at the request of Hack, or did we make them in review of the document?
Mass Housing made them.
Yeah.
It says Rob Brennan made them.
Okay. So Laura, beyond the three, assuming a proper modification can be made, do you have other?
Not on this agreement.
Okay.
I do on other.
Yep. All right. So any further discussion? Mark Mel?
Just a point of clarification on disbursement of funds. Attorney Galvin, you mentioned that disbursement of funds would occur as units are sold, or
No, during
disbursement?
construction.
Okay, I thought I heard you say as units are sold. I'm sorry.
No, the partial releases would issue for each unit for sale, but the disbursement of funds would be in accordance with the agreed disbursement schedule.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Any further discussion on 268 Stevens Street?
Yes.
Laura, go ahead, please.
Sorry. On the conditional award, and maybe I'm being picky here, but throughout the documents, it keeps saying that the project is 31 homes at 100%, 15 at 120, and that we have basically that's what we're funding. We're only funding 31 units. We can only fund 31 units. So it may be picky, but I just want it to be clear that we can't use CPA funds to fund anything but the 31 units.
Are you talking on the draft commitment letter?
Yes,
I think we can clear that up.
it's an easy.
Yep.
All right. I did not have anything on the promissory note. Oops. Let's see. I guess I had a question on the on our shared equity piece, which kind of shows up in a couple of different documents. I just had a question as to whether we were getting a share of just the 31 units. It seems to say that we would get a share of the equity on the 100% and the 120%.
I believe we'll get a share on both.
Okay. I think that was in the mortgage. Mortgage and that was the end of my comments.
Laura, I can call you right afterwards and make sure that you're satisfied with any changes. And I want to do that before I send them back to David Quinn.
Okay. A little time.
Okay, any further discussion? No? Okay, seeing none. We'll move on to the next bullet item.
If I could, just this is an update on Forward 2. They had a groundbreaking on Tuesday, the 7th of October, and it was very well attended. Rep Keating was there, and it was good groundbreaking. Just wanted to report that I did attend that, and everything looking very good. I actually even took some photos, which if anybody would like to see them. And I think that's all I have on that one. I'll move down to 11 Potter Ave. We did receive an email yesterday from Copacabana Realty Investments. They are looking to withdraw their application. And this is basically under FYI and correspondence, but I did want to read that message. This is 12:30 on Monday. Dear Mark, so I believe Chairman Ells, I believe you may have received this already. I hope this email finds you well. I want to inform you that because the amount of time it has taken to obtain funding through the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, we have been forced to seek funding from another source. As a result, we are withdrawing our request for funding at 11 Potter Avenue. Please inform the committee of our decision. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to apply for the funding, and we hope that this will not prejudice you for considering us for future projects. Sincerely, Carlos Barbosa, Copacabana Realty Investment, Inc.
Okay. Is that something, Jillian, that merits looking into the timeline and seeing whether that is a result of our process or whether that is just a limitation on the proponent's need for funding?
I think it might be a combination of both. My understanding is that one of the last remaining approvals that is needed is from the state on the local action units application. And that is, they have seen our, we had slightly amended that, the application form. And so we had some red lines that we sent to the state, and they have received that. I sent an email yesterday to Ali Sabatino just asking if they had an update, but I don't have that back. And I do know that the state is very short-staffed at the moment. So their review is taking a little bit longer. But the other component that in talking with both Carlos and Betsy about it, it is just the returns of, sometimes it takes our legal department and our legal reviews do take a little bit more time. So we were working on getting the documents signed, actually the grant agreement, the mortgage and all of those things were signed pretty quickly and early. There was also a lot of discussion about how the disbursement of the funds in accordance with our grant agreement, how that would proceed. We worked with his bank to clarify how that would go. And it was a disbursement schedule that we had in that. But I think there was I think that they were expecting it to be a little bit more sort of funding as construction pursued. Our issue is that we have to know that those units are going to are counting towards the subsidized housing inventory. And that, I think, was part of the delay. We were waiting for all the approvals to come through to ensure that we had secured those units as affordable. And that, I think, is a delay, if you will, a local process delay and a state level process delay.
Laura?
So we will continue to work with our applicants and to explain upfront the timing on that. But I agree. I just want to address your question, Mr. Ells. That the timeline, I think, is something that it would be very helpful if we could produce something that kind of showed what we might expect for those, just to give people, an inkling of how long these things may take. And I'll stop.
Thank you. Laura?
Regardless of whether they're coming to us, they still need to have that LAU approval. I would hope that would be, and I know this is controversial, but that they should not be able to get any occupancy permits until that's in. I know it's taken a long time, and I'm not sure that the building commissioner agrees with me, but it is a condition of them being able to do the project is to have inclusionary units in there. So for the inclusionary units, I think that they need to have the LAU approvals. So that's just my 2 cents worth. And I wonder who tracks that, because it's obviously not the building commissioner.
Yeah, Jim, do you have any, I am wearing two hats in my next statement, but I've heard a similar opinion shared relevant to reg agreements as I am hearing relevant to trust agreements. It's always important with every contract to always have a contract manager. Both are contracts in my mind. So do you have any comment on this? And can you help us organize in a way to make sure that there is a diligent management of any contract that falls under our authority?
Absolutely. Yes. What Laura is saying is correct. However, and your comparison to reg agreements is a good one. They're both falling under our general ordinance as opposed to our zoning ordinance. So that is kind of the concern I believe the building commissioner has raised. We do in planning follow the LAU application process from beginning to end. It gets processed through our office with the assistance of our legal team, and ultimately it comes to completion, and then we request the addition of those units to the subsidized housing inventory. The issue of getting it done prior to occupancy is certainly a challenge. We strive to do that. Noted in terms of how we can better the process, and we are continuing to look at that. I will note, and I know Manager Ells knows this already, but we were successful in our inclusionary housing ordinance grant that we sought from the state, so we will be getting that process. And one of the things that we want to discuss in that process while considering amending our inclusionary housing ordinances is whether we need to move that ordinance to a zoning ordinance. My immediate take is yes, but we will have that discussion and come back with a recommendation to the council.
All right, Laura, any further comment on that?
No.
All right, thank you. Okay, Jillian, 307.
And this I just kept on the agenda because I didn't want to lose track of it. I have not had conversation with anyone from Wind Development, just letting you know that I'll be reaching out them just to make sure that we're still on track and there's nothing that they need from us. I believe that's basically they're just going through their finance and getting their financing in order and probably scheduling some closings.
Okay.
That's all on those updates.
All right. We'll move on to topic 3, correspondence. Any correspondence that we've received? You already referred to the email on 11 Potter.
Yes, and just also a notice of intent, or basically an email and a letter from Dennis and Deb Mason of Seashore Builders. They are hoping to submit a full application for 83 Main Street. And I won't go into the details because I have further conversation just in advance of my referring the application to you. I just want to go over some things with them about our regulations, our rules and regulations, and the criteria. And they are, I believe, are hoping to be on your next scheduled meeting, which would be November 14th. But I will certainly circulate that out, and I will be guided by you as to whether you're ready to hear that or to have to accept an application from them.
Thank you. Laura?
Yeah, I just noticed in the email that they were asking about infrastructure funding, so just
Yes, if I could, that was part of our conversation, is just to go through. We have not entertained applications that were for both pre-development and development, but I believe that is what they are requesting at this time. So that would be, I would allow them to explain what they're seeking when they come before you.
But you'd also share with them the criteria that they need to meet before they would make a viable request, correct?
Correct, and that they have received a copy of the rules and regulations through just phone conversation. They have said that they fully understand, and it would vary slightly from what our guidelines currently are.
Okay, that's okay. I would highly recommend that they comply with our guidelines, but I suppose they can propose whatever they like. Thank you. Any other correspondence?
That's all I have at the moment. Well, I should say also one phone conversation for another interest is being expressed, and I have a meeting scheduled on Thursday just to review. I won't identify names or addresses at the moment because it's just an inquiry at the moment.
Okay.
And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, item 4, matters not reasonably anticipated by the chair. I have none. There is a broad discussion going on, so I guess I do have one. There is a broad discussion going on about the Seasonal Communities Act, both what exists and what is being proposed by Rep. Diggs as an amendment. I only point that out because Barnstable is through our planning director's general expertise will be briefed. Barnstable's leadership will be briefed on this matter with more discussion to come. That's all. We're not a seasonal community as of yet. Yes, Laura?
What's Rep. Diggs' amendment?
And correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but I believe it's that Cape Towns would automatically be identified as seasonal. I think in general, I feel as though he treated it like an oversight on the part of the initial work. Jim, am I remotely accurate in that?
Yes, that's accurate for Rep. Diggs' proposal. That's correct.
Okay, thank you. So more to come on that. Approval of the minutes from September 22nd, 2025. Has the board had time to review the minutes? Is there any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, do I have a motion to move the minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Approval of the minutes. Laura Schufeld,
Yes.
Mark Milne,
Yes.
Andy Clyburn,
Yes.
Mark Ells, yes. Okay. Topics for future agendas. Does the board have any topics to offer? All right. I think too, outside, if we think of them and share them with Jillian when this number 6 comes up, we can always bring that forward, Jillian. But certainly if you can think of something now, I'm more than happy to entertain it.
Well, I just wanted to, keep us apprised. Obviously, seasonal communities is something that we'll probably hear ongoing information. Laura had said that she would be presenting a little summary from her work on the committee. And I guess I'll just be guided. Laura, I'll just work with you as to when you would like to schedule that. The rules and regulations have been, I believe they're currently still draft, but those have been released. And then the only other item is just the county's regional housing services, the shared regional housing services that the county's working on. I don't believe we have a final intermunicipal agreement, but that will be shared with you as well when we'll keep you apprised of that.
So can you put under reports for next meeting on November 14th that we get an update on seasonal communities and from Jim and then further discussion certainly with Laura and the board, and then that we what was the next item? The last item you talked about? I'm sorry,
It's
Julie.
the shared regional services.
Yeah, so again,
Office.
Jim's playing point on that. So Jim, I mean, I think we were looking to take advantage to the degree that that was of benefit to Barnstable, and how are we progressing or not progressing on that? And then certainly going into the next budget year, which we're embarking on at this point, how might that be considered during budget development? Laura?
Since if it passes, the transfer fee would come to the trust. So it's probably something we should be aware of and updated on as the county seems to be getting to maybe a draft legislation. They're not there. I don't think they're there yet from what I've read, but just an informational piece might be.
Who do you think would be best to brief us on the status of that, Laura? Is it somebody from the county, or Mark, is it on a finance side, or what are you seeing? I've heard very preliminary that they're even arguing about how that transfer fee should be used. Is it housing or is it wastewater, or what is the intent of the revenue?
Yeah, and I think if it's a county legislation moving forward, but each town has, can fill in the blanks for the variables themselves and retains the money themselves rather than having the county retain it and disperse it. There's a lot of questions still, but
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
I'm not sure whether it's our delegate that or our delegate to the assembly.
Well, I'd be very interested if it is housing generally, and if the designated recipient is the trust. I'd be very interested in getting a briefing on that. Obviously, I think we would all want to be made aware of that.
That's
But
what
I haven't heard specifics yet, Laura.
the last specifics, the last meeting that they had, there was some folks who were talking about wastewater, but the majority and all the previous ones that are outstanding are all going to the trust, going to an affordable housing trust.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, move on to the next one. Our next meeting is Friday, November 14th, at 9 a.m. And any known conflicts at this point? No. Okay, seeing none. Well, Jillian, we will hold with that date. Seeing no further items, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So
So
moved.
move.
Second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. We'll go Laura moved it, Andy seconded it. Thank you. Roll call, Laura Schufeld,
Yes.
Mark Milne,
Yes.
Andy Clyburn,
Yes.
Mark Els. Thank you. Yes, thank you.